When they are here, you're fine with the president denigrating them with a slur?
Abby, I think everybody...
By someone saying that their political opponent should be put in jail? Okay, well,
it's not even about being offended. You should never just preemptively assume your opponent should be in jail like that.
I'm locking up others to now prop up Gavin Newsom and say he's great when he's putting out AI-generated photos of our president in handcuffs on a sidewalk.
The reason Gavin is rising is that they look at him as a fighter. They may not like the game, but he's playing to win.
Threats of, or not even threats, just memes about locking up your political opponent are suddenly so offensive.
Oh, it's not about being
to
really
the other side of the aisle when it was
it's about
fine
being...
when Trump did it for the last 8 years.
And that's not going to just be yelling back at the guy who's yelling at you.
Next for us.
But this is their role model? A guy who calls someone a retard? A guy who calls someone a piggy? This is our role model, the President of the United States?
Hello, everybody. Guys, we have a wonderful surprise today. I couldn't believe it. We got Sid the Sloth on the panel, and we got Punk Ass. Let's get into the segment, and we'll talk about it.
Tonight, Gavin Newsom is lamenting the remaining years of the Trump era. In an interview with the New York Times, the California governor got emotional about Donald Trump's rhetoric.
I can't even conceive of 3 more years of this. It really is. What's happening to our kids? Their brains are already being scrambled by social media and everything else we didn't even talk about. But this is their role model? A guy who calls someone a retard? A guy who calls someone a piggy? This is our role model, the President of the United States?
Over the last 6 months, Newsom has been emulating Trump's brash, all-caps-laden, and often AI-generated social media persona. And it's not just Democrats. Listen to these Republicans who rejected the president's demand for a new map in Indiana.
The efforts were mean-spirited from the get-go. So, I think they get what they get. I wish that President Trump would change his tone.
I had released a post about my displeasure over some the slur that the president used. Words have consequences, and for me, it was just added to a litany of reasons of why this was just bad policy and not good timing, and wasn't deserving of my support.
That last Indiana lawmaker that you just heard, one of the reasons that he said that he rejected this map was when he heard Trump use the R-word slur. He has a child with a disability. And I wonder if Gavin Newsom, you think, Brianna, is hitting on something that is bubbling up here. When you have Republicans saying Trump is going too far, is that a sentiment that could hurt Trump and Republicans going forward?
I don't think so. I think to the state senator, Bo Boachek, who just spoke, I can understand why a parent with a child with Down syndrome would be sensitive to the use of the R word, and I completely agree. But I do think to his point about words mattering, words matter, but policies matter more. And if he cares about the dignity of people and children with Down syndrome, that he should want to make sure Republicans have a good, fair fighting chance in Congress, because it's parties like Congressman Moskowitz's party who votes against legislation that would ban abortion solely on the basis of Down syndrome. And so if you want to focus on the dignity of those with Down syndrome, words may hurt, but policies will hurt more. So I think he should have voted with the Republicans to redistrict.
Not having insurance is also going to hurt.
So you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah,
you think it's important for
voted it down.
For, on the abortion piece, for children with Down syndrome to have a chance of life. But when they are here, you're fine with the president denigrating them with a slur?
Abby, I think everybody at this table, at least for my generation, the lexicon, unfortunately, uses the R word not to smear or malign anybody.
Playground in 5th grade.
No,
not
Abby, I'm telling you right now, that is a word that unfortunately is just thrown around as if you're calling someone an idiot or a moron. I'm not defending it, but I'm saying that President Trump certainly was not using it to attack someone who has a legitimate disability. I think we all know that too. Calling Tim Walz the R word is not trying to say Tim Walz has Down syndrome.
Well, look, Tim Walz also has a child with disabilities. So there's that too. But
here's what that really exposes, and Abby Phillip sees it clearly in real time. When Donald Trump uses language that reduces entire communities to something disposable, and party allies immediately rush to defend it, that's not loyalty, that's normalization. Listen closely. The defense isn't about facts. It's about permission. Permission for rhetoric that would have ended careers a decade ago to now pass as authentic. And this is where democracy meets denial. Because the moment you excuse words that target people for who they are, their race, their faith, their disability, you're not just defending a speaker. You're lowering the standard for everyone who follows. Abby's point lands because it names the pattern. It's never just one comment, and it's never just one person. It's a party-wide reflex to explain away harm instead of drawing a line. Let's be real for a second. There's a meaningful difference between sharp political insults and language that dehumanizes. One is noise. The other is architecture. Petty jabs come and go. But when leaders repeatedly frame certain groups as dangerous, inferior, or suspect, while conspicuously leaving others untouched, that's not accidental. That's power signaling who belongs and who doesn't. Here's the psychological tell. The constant excuse-making isn't strength, it's insecurity. It's the fear that admitting wrongdoing might crack the whole narrative. So instead, decency gets reframed as weakness, and cruelty gets sold as toughness. Abby doesn't raise her voice because she doesn't need to, the contradiction speaks for itself. And here's the conviction piece. Democrats aren't putting on gloves out of spite. They're responding to a reality where silence gets mistaken for consent. Defending democracy means defending dignity, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially then. Because facts still matter, norms still matter, and the people being targeted matter. That's the takeaway. This isn't about tone policing, it's about refusing to let dehumanization become the baseline. You believe the path forward is built on progress, accountability, and inclusion, hit that subscribe button. Let's make this community the strongest voice for democracy online.
Charles, you were saying.
I think, we're in the wicked season and we got used to Trump defying gravity. And we thought, a lot of people thought that was going to happen forever. I think that gravity is now taking hold. I believe that there's a political gravity that's happening with Donald Trump because people are getting exhausted by it. I think this is what was happening at the end of the first term. And I think this is where Newsom has to tread a little bit more lightly here because emulating Donald Trump, by the end of his presidency, people were exhausted by Donald Trump. They did not want exact replica of Donald Trump. They wanted something completely different from that. And I think that, Gavin Newsom has to figure out if he wants to continue the next 3 years as being anti-Trump by being kind of a mirror image of him.
Yeah, can he do both?
But that's Ezra Klein has an interview with him basically saying he is the front runner for the Democratic Party. Yet what did he put out? An AI-generated photo of the President of the United States in handcuffs this week. He told the Indiana governor, get down on your knees today in a post on X. So, I don't know, on one hand, the president can't do it, but yet Gavin Newsom is now the front runner for the Democrat?
Your knee pads are in the mail. Oof. That's good. That's good. I mean, guys, you guys want to be vile. I don't know what else to do.
Wait, I don't know. This is sort of a chicken and egg kind of situation.
What are you talking about? We're talking about verbiage. We're talking about verbiage.
I'm saying what's chicken and egg is that you're sort of implying that Gavin Newsom started it and that it's fair that
I didn't say Gavin Newsom started
Republicans to continue it when
we all know how the president speaks.
Yeah, exactly.
We all know how the president speaks. He got reelected with 77 million votes.
Do you remember this? This is a Trump post from 2024 where he reposts a truck with Joe Biden hogtied on the streets and Trump flags flying. So I mean, Gavin Newsom's point is, and trust me, I think part of the question I'm asking is, can he do this, right? But his point is that Trump does this every day. Now, all of a sudden, Republicans are up in arms. You've got Republicans like Peter Navarro saying, I went to prison defending the Constitution because of woke assholes like you who weaponized our justice system. This isn't close to funny. All you're doing is inciting more violence. Was it violence when Trump did it? And why are Republicans suddenly so offended?
Look, I can't speak to those Republicans, and I'm not arguing with you. We know how Donald Trump speaks, and he's very blunt. That's one of the things that people of America like about him. And sometimes he uses words I don't always agree with. But I'm just saying, for the media and others to now prop up Gavin Newsom and say he's great when he's putting out AI-generated photos of our president in handcuffs on a sidewalk, well, then what's the difference?
Offended by it.
I'm saying, what's the difference? I'm saying, what's the difference? You guys want to slam the president constantly.
Are you offended by someone saying that their political opponent should be put in jail? Okay, well, let's.
It's not even about being offended. You should never just preemptively assume your opponent should be in jail like that.
He has done his entire political career.
Tell you what, for what she's done, they should lock her up. She's disgraceful. Hillary Clinton has to go to jail, okay? She has to go to jail. You should lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
All right, so tale as old as time. Lock her up. This was 2016. This was 4 years before Joe Biden. This was 4 years before the alleged lawfare. Lock her up. What are we talking about here?
First of all, he said should. Did Donald Trump weaponize his Department of Justice to lock Hillary Clinton up? No, he didn't. But did Joe Biden's lock up Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, try Donald Trump?
The reporting is, in his first term, he certainly tried. And he had a different government at the time, a different cabinet at the time, and it didn't work. But listen, I'm not...
Here's what that really exposes. This isn't just bravado or a moment of political trash talk. It's a window into how grievance politics actually functions. Listen closely, this is the tell. Figures like Charlie Kirk and others build an entire brand around provocation, dominance, and mockery. They celebrate it as toughness. They sell it as authenticity. But the instant that same energy is reflected back, suddenly it's framed as cruelty, persecution, or a moral crisis. And this is where democracy meets contradiction. Because the people who obsess over being alpha, who posture about strength and hierarchy, reveal something else entirely when challenged. The outrage isn't about civility. It's about losing narrative control. It's about the discomfort of seeing their own tactics exposed without the protective cover of power. Let's be real for a moment. There's a psychological dynamic here that matters. The fixation on dominance often masks insecurity. When politics becomes an endless performance of humiliation and outrage, it stops being about ideas and starts being about self-validation. Cruelty becomes a shortcut, a way to feel superior without having to persuade, explain, or govern. That's not leadership. That's avoidance. But here's the deeper structural issue. For years, Democrats were told, explicitly and implicitly, that the only acceptable role was restraint. Extend the hand. Take the high road. Assume good faith. And when that good faith was mocked, exploited, or weaponized, the response was always the same: be quieter, be nicer, don't escalate. That imbalance didn't preserve democracy. It distorted it. This is why moments like this resonate. When Democrats push back, it's immediately framed as hypocrisy. But that framing ignores the timeline. One side normalized demonization, threats, and dehumanizing rhetoric for years. The other side was expected to absorb it indefinitely. That's not fairness, that's asymmetry. And voters can feel it, even if they don't always articulate it. Here's where Gavin Newsom enters the picture. For many voters, he's not just a governor or a policy figure, he's a signal. A signal that Democrats are reassessing the rules of engagement. Not because conflict is appealing, but because passivity has a cost. People don't just want competence. They want to know their leaders will defend them when they're attacked, rhetorically, politically, structurally. And let's be clear, responding does not mean embracing bigotry or cruelty. That's the false binary being sold. You can confront hypocrisy without becoming it. You can name manipulation without mirroring dehumanization. The goal isn't to trade insults forever. The goal is to break the incentive structure that rewards cruelty and punishes restraint. Here's the moral frame. Democracy doesn't survive by pretending everyone plays by the same rules when they don't. It survives when double standards are exposed and power is challenged openly. Silence isn't neutrality, it's permission. And endless deference to bad faith doesn't lower the temperature. It emboldens it. That's the takeaway. This moment isn't about enjoying the fight or glorifying escalation. It's about recognizing the arena as it actually exists, and choosing to defend democratic norms without surrendering strength, clarity, or dignity.
Defending any of this, but I just think it is so interesting that memes and that threats of, or not even threats, just memes about locking up your political opponent are suddenly so offensive
it's not about being
to the
really
other side of the aisle when it was
It's about
fine
being...
when Trump did it for the last 8 years.
I mean, listen, A for effort on that locker up thing. Okay, but here's what I would say, right? At the end of the day, the game has changed. And what Democrats have decided is we may not like the game. We may find it morally reprehensible. But what Gavin has decided is he's going to play the game, because if you don't play, you automatically lose. And so you can play the game while also saying, I don't like the game.
Can you?
Yeah,
You're making my point. You're making my point, Congressman.
I would say,
Exactly my point.
I don't know if that's true.
Well,
I don't know if you tell
Abby.
Americans that, like, you know, we're going to just normalize this whole thing.
It is
and
normalized.
I'm going to go, you know, when they go low, I go lower. That's the thing that people are saying these days. That the actual representation of that is this. How do you go to the American people and then say, kick those people out and put me in instead?
Because it's the politics of escalation. That is what is going on in the House that I serve in. That's what I see every single solitary day. I mean, again, right? You remove one person from committee on one side, the next year they remove two. You remove two, they remove four. They don't like what Biden's DOJ did, what Trump's DOJ is worse, okay? And so it's the politics of escalation. And so Democrats could decide not to play. But then we lose, then we lose in the communications game. Then Democrats say, we're not fighters, we're not fighting. The reason Gavin is rising is that they look at him as a fighter. They may not like the game, but he's playing to win.
All right. Very quick.
Okay. I think that I would offer this to other liberals out there. The tit for tatting with the memes feels good. Eventually, someone's going to have to wake up and realize that this is fascism that's approaching. It's not going to be. It's not going to just be a meme that's going to be the response.
Lordy.
There's going to have to be more people in the streets. There's going to have to be more really hard decisions made about how you want to live and what your future should look like. And that's not going to just be yelling back at the guy who's yelling at you.
Next for us.
Here's what that really exposes. Politics today isn't a polite debate. It's not a classroom lecture. It's not a measured chess match where moves are analyzed and consequences are delayed. Politics today is a full contact arena, a relentless stage where words carry as much weight as actions, and Abby Phillip is showing us exactly how consequential that reality has become. You can fight for healthcare, for voting rights, for climate justice, for the very pillars of a functioning democracy, and still, if you don't respond to the gutter-level attacks, the optics shift. The public doesn't see the depth of your arguments. They see hesitation. They see passivity. And in today's environment, hesitation is interpreted as weakness, and weakness gets exploited. Let's be real, the electorate wants leaders who will fight, not just for ideas or ideals, but for themselves and the citizens they represent. And when the opposition refuses to engage in substantive discussion and instead resorts to unrelenting personal attacks, name-calling, fear-mongering, and dehumanization, staying polite or restrained is not an option. This is not about stooping to their level, it's about demonstrating that toughness and principle can coexist. You can confront cruelty without becoming cruel. You can respond without betraying your own values. And that's exactly what Abby Phillip is pointing out. In a climate where incivility is normalized, silence is complicity, and restraint can be weaponized against you. Here's the psychological insight: humor, ridicule, and sharp nicknames, like Bite of the Brainless, Fascist Powder, Sid the Sloth, Humpty Dumpty, Marvel's Kingpin, or Minnie Moskowitz, aren't just comic relief. They're tactical. They puncture the aura of dominance created by fear and aggression. They reveal absurdity. They expose how one-sided aggression works to intimidate, confuse, and demoralize. This is not about lowering oneself, it's about reclaiming narrative control, demonstrating resilience, and showing the public that cruelty does not dictate the conversation. The structural reality is even starker. For years, the Republican Party has normalized a politics of cruelty. They weaponize words to dehumanize groups of people, distort reality, and attack relentlessly. They refuse substantive policy debate, preferring spectacle and fear as tools of influence. In this environment, if Democrats remain overly righteous, excessively polite, or restrained, it doesn't look principled, it looks impotent. And the public sees only the visible clash, the theatrical attacks, without seeing the reasoning or policy substance behind the restraint. That's the trap Abby Phillip is highlighting. Civility is no longer a safeguard, it can become a liability if not paired with strategy and assertiveness. This is why figures like Gavin Newsom are being watched so closely. His willingness to engage, to push back, to assert leadership is not about reveling in conflict, it's about signaling that bad faith, cruelty, and dehumanization will not go unchallenged. It's about showing that democracy requires defenders willing to step into the arena and confront normalized aggression, not just policy challenges. It's about refusing to allow the spectacle to define acceptable behavior or dictate the terms of discourse. Abby Phillip understands this nuance, framing it for the audience, highlighting the stakes, and showing what responsible but assertive leadership looks like in a hostile environment. Here's the moral frame: defending democracy is more than passing laws or winning elections. It's about courage in the arena, defending dignity against normalized cruelty, and refusing to let intimidation dictate the rules. It's about strength, clarity, and strategy, all combined. It's about resisting the temptation to become what you oppose while still engaging decisively. That is how democratic norms are upheld. That is how public trust in institutions is preserved. That is how democracy survives when confronted by relentless bad faith and escalating aggression. The takeaway is clear: you can fight smart. You can fight hard. You can fight strategically, with precision, with principle. You can stand up without stooping. You can push back without surrendering integrity. You can reclaim the narrative while defending the very values under assault. That is the leadership democracy demands in a world where cruelty has been normalized, and that is the lesson Abby Phillip is reminding us of today.